little quieter, a little slower. But we're in this season of Advent, and one of the things I've been thinking about is how these Christmas carols, like a lot of these old hymns, are just so rich. And a lot of times, just the way they're written, I find I'll be singing one, and I sing a line that's like, whoa, that's amazing. And then you're already into the next line, and you can't stay on that previous line and dwell on it. So I'm kind of just going to go with that approach a little bit tonight, of just nice and slow, and sing through a couple of these songs, but just to stop on some of these ideas and just kind of meditate on the mystery of the incarnation, the message of Christmas, the peace on earth, goodwill to man, and just to set my mind on the Father's heart in releasing and sending his Son to us, and of making a way for us to see what he's like, for Jesus, the exact representation of the Father, to come to us. And so just want to take some time on that tonight. It's like one of the most common storylines of the Christmas narrative, the nativity narrative, is how Jesus was born in tiny, small, insignificant Bethlehem. And even within Bethlehem, he was completely overlooked. No one really knew what was going on, except for the shepherds out in the hillside. They kind of got tipped off by a crowd of angels, which was amazing. But just with the season it was, and the Roman census being called, and everyone who was from Bethlehem rushing back to the city, and just the busyness in the city, not a room available for Mary and Joseph. Like, think about that. Even a young woman, largely pregnant, going into labor, and no one's making room for her. Just what was the state of busyness in that town, that they did not recognize what was happening there that night. And I just think about us today, and how I think it's pretty safe to say we're likely the busiest and most distracted generation in human history. And how easy it is for, we see it in the world, but how easy is it for us to overlook what he's saying or doing in our lives, and even if we catch what he's saying or doing, to just race on by and not stop and let the mystery of it, or let the meaning of it, the power of the revelation of it, settle in our hearts. It's like, again, in that story, even the only example we see of people really recognizing what God's doing and taking it to heart and giving it time and attention were these magi from the east, who see the star in the sky, who they give it their attention, they do their studying, they unpack prophecies, which is kind of cool to think they likely had access to some of these prophecies because of Daniel, who was made charge of the wise men and the seers and the diviners in Babylon. Like, he likely brought some of these prophetic writings to them, and from several hundred years earlier, and for these guys to recognize this must be pointing to a king. And then for them to take as much time as they did to prepare the cost of the gifts, and then to make the long trek, hundreds of miles through desert and through arid regions, to find him. And then to think of them walking into this house. Scholars believe Jesus was about 2 years old at the time. For them to enter this house and see this toddler, and to be able to recognize him as a king. Just what kind of attention and listening was required in all of that from these wise men. And they weren't Jewish. They weren't the people of God who you would think would have noticed this. And so, I'm guilty of this so often, and just even there's a hint of God saying something, and I don't stop and unpack it, you know. And I think most of us are probably succumb to that a little bit these days. And so tonight I just want to, like I said, just kind of go slow and just take time to think about, to ponder, to meditate on, to chew on some of these truths. Like God in the flesh, what is that? And why would he come? And why would he leave? You know, just thinking about these angels declaring his arrival, and how he would have been accustomed to the worship in the throne room of God, and accustomed to these angelic beings singing and worshiping and honoring him, and then he comes